Welcome back to the Triple C podcast for this week. I'm Rectangular. Here we have Michael Wisman, Punker Mike, and joining us is Dave Castle. For this week, we are calling Triple C Castle's Clean Castings, because if you are not familiar with Dave Castle, he is, in my opinion, the best casting person in the action figure community. I think Michael can probably agree with me on that.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I was telling these guys I've bought head casts from probably, at least for 6-inch scale, I've bought head casts from probably every known casting person in the community, and I've been most happy with Dave Castle's work. So welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. So you have a website called StarWarsGeek.net, right?
That's correct.
Okay, great. So you do head casts for 3 3/4 inch and 6-inch scale figures.
Yes.
All right, great. And what first got you into doing head casts?
What first got me into doing it? Probably just my. I've been doing customizing since probably the early '90s, maybe even before that. And it's always, go to the store, buy a figure because I need a backpack, or go to the store and buy a figure because I need the head. So I knew of a couple of people that were doing casting, and I contacted a couple of them, and they kind of showed me the ropes, and I started doing it for myself originally, but it's actually a very expensive part of the hobby. It's really not feasible to make a mold and then run off copies of parts if I just need 2 copies of a head, or if I just want an extra of this or an extra of that. It's really not worth it to make a mold just to run 1 or 2 pieces, because the silicone is $200 a gallon and the plastic is $100 a gallon. I mean, don't get me wrong, you can make quite a few pieces from that, but to spend the time and the money to make a mold to make 1 piece is just not worth it. So I started getting into it to make the copies for myself originally, and then, like I said, I discovered that it really wasn't worth the effort or worth the investment if I was just doing it 1 at a time or 2 at a time for myself. So then I started, offering them for sale. And then once you start offering stuff for sale, people will contact you and they'll say, hey, do you have this, or hey, do you have that? And what started out as 10 or 15 pieces turned into 25, which turned into 50, and so on and so on.
Sure.
And now I've got 600 or 700 items in my store now.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and fortunately, a lot of us in the ACBA community are friends with you, and so if we get a figure that is hard to find, we'll send you the head and say, hey, can you make a cast of this, so that our fellow friends in the community can get a copy of it, and then you can sell it on your store.
Sure.
Well.
Harvey sent me that Iron Man head that was only available from the UK, and I made copies of that. I was able to get copies of the unreleased Phoenix Force Cyclops and the Blade from one of the Chinese sellers. I've already done the Phoenix Force Cyclops, and he's been in my store for a while. I still haven't had a chance to do the Blade, but I'm hoping to get to him soon.
Cool. Yeah, we're very lucky to have somebody with your skills. So how did you, do you have a background in art?
Yes and no. I always liked to draw when I was a kid. I remember being in like 4th or 5th grade, and art was always my favorite class, and I'd always, do a lot of drawing. And then when I was probably maybe 8 or 9, my parents had me in some kind of a model kit of the month club, where every month a new model kit would show up. Usually it was like a car or a plane or a tank or something like that, but I would always build model kits. And then as I got older, um, I was working in the World Trade Center back in the late 80s, and there was a comic book store that sold garage kits, vinyl and resin kits, and I started getting into those. And then probably early 90s, I learned about like the action figure customizing, and that was right around the time that I started going online. And there was a listserv, which I don't know if any of you guys even know what that is. I'm sure you do, Todd. But
I was never on one, but yeah, it's
uh
like a message board, right?
right. It predates message boards. Basically, you would send an email to the listserv email address, and then it would forward it out to everybody on the listserv. And I believe that actually evolved into the message board at some point. But the listserv was for Star Wars customizing, and that was really where I started getting into it. Um, and then about maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I decided to start taking online classes at the Academy of Art University in industrial design, and I did that for like 2 or 3 years. But I wasn't able to finish my degree. I haven't been able to finish my degree yet, but hopefully at some point I will.
Cool, but you're able to do what you do, which was once a hobby. You're able to do full time as a job now, right?
That's correct. Yeah. I let's see. I guess it was around 2011. My wife and I were getting ready to buy our first house, and I was working in electronics store. I was assistant manager at an electronics store, and 2 weeks before we closed, they decided that they were going to let me go because business was getting really bad and slow. So they let me go, and I decided that I was tired of working for other people who don't really understand the job that they're asking you to do, if that makes any sense. Like prior to working there, I was working as a graphic designer, like a new media designer. I did websites and emails and flyers and things like that. And the company I worked for was really small, but the woman who owned it, she really had zero idea of what design really was, but she thought that she was the greatest designer ever. So you would present as, she'd say, well, we have a client that wants a website, and, I would make 3 designs, and she would say, no, I don't like any of those, but look at the one that I made, and it was just like a solid color with like some scrolly things on the side, and, and that was the one that we chose for the client. Well, that was one that the client chose, supposedly, every time, so I actually got into a big fight with her, and I ended up quitting that job, and that's when I started working at the electronics store. And then, like I said, when they let me go, I was like, that's it, I'm done working for somebody else, And I had already been doing this for a couple of years at that point, and I just decided to put all my effort into it. And it's been working out pretty well. So, I mean, I don't own a mansion, but, it pays the bills.
Yeah, and that's kind of a dream for a lot of us, is just to enjoy your job, not have somebody dictate how you do things. That's pretty awesome. To be able to have a creative outlet, basically turn your hobby into a way to make a living. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I could ask for a better way to make a living at this point. Most people get up in the morning and they're like, oh, I gotta go to work. And me, I get up in the morning and I'm like, I can't wait to come down to my workshop and get started on my day. And I know when I used to work at the store as a designer, it was like all day long, is it time to go home yet? Is it time to go home yet? And now I'm busy working, and it's like, oh my God, it's 7 o'clock. I need to go upstairs and eat something I haven't eaten all day, or I've been down here for 12 hours. I need to go and relax for a little while. You know what I mean? There's days that just fly by.
Yeah. So we started the podcast, and then Diego popped in. So the DMC is here.
What up?
Finally got the kids to bed, probably.
Pretty much, yeah. They're one's asleep. The other two are almost there. So
All right, cool. So, do you guys have any questions for Dave before I keep on going?
Yeah, of course. So I bring it up a lot in the show, and I realize I've never said the name, but we have a new gaming shop in my town called Line Breakers, and one of the things that they do a lot of casting, but what they cast is like pieces for miniature terrain. Like I would imagine, I thought they would cast miniatures, but they don't. They just prefer to do terrain pieces and then make it modular. And it got me thinking, have you ever thought about collaborating with maybe a diorama builder? And I know like generally it's just too big to like maybe cast something, but like someone like Chris Gupton who does a lot of like intricate builds, like the paneling and stuff. Have you ever thought about collaborating and making like diorama pieces like for labs or whatever?
Well, I mean, I actually have some 4-inch scale Death Star walls that I've been working on for a while that are modular. They're panels. They're probably about maybe 6 inches tall and like 3 inches wide. I have, I think there's 3 or 4 different panels. I haven't been able to find time to actually make molds and test out the castings yet, but that's one thing that I've been. I mean, I probably have about 1,000 projects that I've been working on, but it's usually just if somebody were to contact me and say, hey, I have these diorama pieces, would you be interested in something like this? I would probably, have a conversation with them and then see like what they want to do, how they want to do it. I'm not opposed to doing it, but I've never, contacted anybody else to bring more work on myself, I guess. You know what I mean? But like I said, I'm always open to doing just about anything as long as it's feasible for me to do it.
Right, you can't cast like, a 2-story building or nothing.
Well, I mean, if you have a big enough pressure pot, you could, or if you can do the molds without a pressure. I mean, like if you ever watched, there was a show on the Travel Channel called Making Monsters a couple years ago. I don't know if any of you guys ever watched it.
dope show.
Yeah, I mean, those guys did casting of life-size figures without pressure pots, They weren't really doing hard plastic. Like most of my stuff is hard plastic. They were doing a lot of foam, which I guess because it expands, it'll fill in all the small gaps a lot better than pouring a plastic into a rubber mold that's this big. But I mean, it's possible to make molds of almost anything at almost anything. I mean, even if you guys watch Face Off on Sci-Fi, they mold, prosthetics for your face every week without pressure. I've only ever molded with a pressure pot because if you try to do it without a pressure pot, it just doesn't work. I mean, especially, I guess because the things I'm making are this big, if not smaller. So when you're trying to push plastic into the nose on the head of a 4-inch scale figure, you need something to push it down. You need that pressure to push it into all those little crevices on your mold.
Yeah,
but
when you're talking about like masks and things like that, it's usually latex, so it's a very soft material. So it doesn't have to, like you're saying, the pressure. It doesn't. The molecules don't have to compress into tight spaces like that.
Right.
Whereas you're using a hard resin, and it's such a tiny scale, you need all that pressure to force it into the mold. So.
Yeah. So I mean, bigger pieces like diorama pieces, it would all depend on what size they were and how they were built. Depending on the shapes of them, if there's a lot of undercuts, you're going to have a lot of problems trying to get a clean copy of that out of a mold. So I mean, what a lot of people do is they'll build. I don't know if I know you were saying that the store sells wargaming terrain, and if you ever look at like some of the 40K buildings, every wall is a single
Mhm.
panel, and you have to build it because they can't cast
Right.
it. You know, if it was an L-shaped wall, you can't really cast that. I mean, they probably could because obviously they're a multi-million-dollar company, Games Workshop. But you know, they do everything as a flat
Mhm.
piece, and then you assemble it all.
Yeah, I've seen those. Those are crazy expensive for what they are, but
Some
yeah.
of them can be really expensive, yeah. I mean, they're amazing figures and diorama pieces. I used to have a very large Space Marine collection, which I actually sold off a couple years ago. But
So, so since we're on the topic of your process, when you get a new cat or a new head from like you said, Harvey sent you
mhm.
that one from the UK Iron Man. Take us through how long would it take to make the mold and then cast a head for something that you've never done before, a new piece for you.
See, Todd, you're always taking my questions. That's what that was in my brain right now. I was like, I always want to know, like start to finish, like how long does it take? You know, is it an hour you're taking, 2 hours? Yeah.
Well, it all depends on what kind of material you're going to use. You know, I use a couple of different kinds of silicone. One silicone, I can pour a mold and it will cure completely in 4 hours. Another kind of silicone, I can pour the mold and it takes 24 hours for it to cure.
Okay.
Um, but to answer your question, how long does it take me to get something done? It all depends. I guess it all depends on what I'm doing at the moment and how motivated I am to get it. Because, like I said, I've had that blade head for about 3 months now, and I haven't gotten to it. But I realized that wasn't your actual question. Um, the first thing I have to do is to glue or attach some kind of a sprue to the back. Usually, I put it on the back so that if there is any damage, it's on the back. The face, the front of the face, will always come out clean. Um, and that, I mean, that's a pretty standard, pretty fairly straightforward process, you know.
It's too bad Hasbro doesn't pay attention to you because it's half the time it's on the side of the damn character's head.
Yeah.
You can see where the mold was
Mhm.
attached.
Yeah, you can see the mold marks or the mold lines that go across, or you know, in the middle of their heads. I try not to do that if at all possible. Like I said, I try to attach everything on the back so that if there is, you know, any kind of damage to it, it's in the back and it's easily, you can sand it off, you can grind it down, or you can just paint over it. Um, but you know, like I said, doing that is literally a couple of seconds. Usually, I use toothpicks. I cut the toothpicks down to about maybe a half an inch. I glue them on the back of the head. You know, 10 minutes for the super glue to dry, maybe not even, and you're ready to go. Um, I build a mold box. I usually use Legos because it's easy to build a box of any size that I need. If I want to make a mold of 6 heads, I can build the box longer. If I want to just do 1 head, I can build it smaller. And then after I'm done, I break it down. I can reuse the Legos. You know, a lot of people will use cardboard. People will use foam core. People will use plastic cups. I've tried all of that, and the thing I keep going back to is the Legos. People, like, when I tell people that do this, that I use Legos, they look at me like, "The Legos? Why do you use Legos?" And I'm like, well, it's what works for me,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and like I said, once you get that built, you put a little like a little clay, like a base, something to hold your pieces in, and then you build the Lego wall, and you're ready to pour the rubber. And then, like I said, the rubber that I usually use takes 24 hours. So I try to do a lot of molding first thing in the morning so that it can sit in my pressure pot all day and then overnight. And then the next morning I'll come down, I'll open the pot, take out the molds, release the masters, and then I usually bake the molds for about 4 hours. And what that does is it gets rid of any moisture that might be left behind. Maybe if the silicone doesn't cure properly, or if there's excess moisture or condensation inside there, it'll get rid of. You bake out all the moisture because moisture will kill your casts, your molding and your casting. Moisture is like the #1 enemy. I actually have a humidity gauge here in my studio, and if the humidity is up over like 60%, 50 to 60%, I won't even do anything for the day because it's not gonna come out right, you know.
Yeah, I remember you recently did a secret project for me recently, and you said, oh, I can't get to it until number one, the temperature.
The temperature is like
It's warmer.
the temperature and the humidity are like the two things that will kill your molds and your casts faster than anything else, you know. So you really have to watch with that. Like I said, I have a thermometer and a humidity gauge right here, and if it's too cold or it's too humid, I'll just do something else for the day. I'll do painting or I'll whatever, but I won't do any molding or casting if it's too cold or too humid.
That makes sense. So it takes at least a day and a half to get your mold, and then how long does it take to make the cast?
Well, I mean, and again, as far as the plastic is concerned, I have plastics that will cure in 5 minutes, and I have plastics that cure in 12 hours. And it all depends on the mold. I had a mold recently of a little a dog from the GI Joe line. It was a military dog, and I was trying to run off the copies as quick as I could, so I was using my 5-minute plastic. And every time I would run the copy, there would always be air bubbles around the paws. And so I switched over to the 8-hour plastic, and the casts came out flawless. So the only thing I can think of is that the mold was like the legs came down, and then the paw came out, and the plastic was curing before all the bubbles could be compressed because it was curing too fast. So I switched over to a longer setting plastic, and it gave the plastic time for it to compress and to pop all the bubbles.
Now, does all that become trash, or can you like melt it down and like use it again?
You can't melt it down. That's one of the drawbacks to casting with the plastics. Once it's cast, it's done.
It's trash.
Yeah, pretty much. Like this, I don't know if you can see that. That is like the top of every one of the molds, and that's just garbage, But that's the reservoir where the plastic has to be poured into. So you can't really make a mold without having some kind of waste. For the dog casts, the areas on the back and the paws were so small that I'll fill them in with some kind of green stuff or like a Aves 2-part epoxy putty, sand it, and I'll paint them, and you'll never know there was air bubbles in there. But I would never sell those as casts. I mean, I'll finish them, like I said, fill all the air holes, fill all the bubbles with some kind of putty, paint them, finish them all up, and then put them on eBay as a painted piece. Right. And no one will know that they were damaged. So usually when I get pieces that don't come out properly, it depends on what kind of damage it is. A lot of times it's little tiny air bubbles that just don't get popped. I'll put them to the side, and like I said, I'll fill that in with something, I'll paint it, and I'll put it up on eBay that way. But I don't sell the ones that have any kind of damage to them.
Cool. Yeah, and if somebody's working with you like I was, and they say, if you have damaged ones, I'll take those too because I can use them as damage fodder for a battle damaged character.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's like a win-win.
Yeah, I mean, there were a few zombies that I was casting that I had a couple of problems with. They had larger air bubbles in the back of their head. So I haven't actually done anything with them yet, but I have a cast of a small brain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make copies of the brain and just insert the brain into where the opening, like where the air bubble was. So it'll just look like the zombie's head is open and there's a brain exposed,
Right.
So
awesome. Okay, Diego, spit some more good questions out.
Because I know you mostly do like heads and stuff. You just started. Have you done like weapons or like in 6-inch scale?
I haven't. For 6-inch scale, all I've done so far is some handguns. I have a couple of holsters and handguns. Nothing larger than that. For the 1/18 scale for the GI Joes, I just finished about. It's probably about 24 different variations on the M4 rifle, which is like the modern military go-to rifle for most of your Army Rangers, Navy SEALs, whatever. They're using the M4. So I have, like I said, I have a whole bunch of variations. Some have different scope on the front. Some have a little grip on the front. Some have a longer stock in the back. Some have a suppressor on the front. But those are all on the 1/18 scale. I actually have this, which is actually an M4 rifle, and that is a 1/12 scale piece that I'm going to be doing.
That looks nice.
I'm not really sure where this came from, but this piece, this scope, is actually on backwards. So I have to cut this off and flip it around before I make the molds of it. Otherwise, no one's going to buy it because it's backwards. Like I said, I don't know where it came from or where I got it from, other than the fact that it's on backwards. This is a really nice sculpt, And then what I'll probably do is I'll probably do the same thing. On some, I'll remove this completely and make another cast of it. On some, I'll remove the flashlight and make another cast of it. And so, maybe I'll add a suppressor and make another cast of it. So there'll be 5 or 6 different variations. I mean, I guess you could just buy 5 copies and then do all that work yourself. But, I'll probably just do it so that I can have all those different variations in my store at the same time.
Oh, nice. I'll get some of those for sure. for my Punisher.
What do you find is more challenging, doing a 3 3/4 inch scale or 6 inch scale?
As far as casting goes?
Yeah.
It depends on what it is, I think once you learn the basics and once you learn, a big part of it is how your pieces are oriented in the mold. Because like when you're pouring in your plastic, it's liquid, so it's affected by gravity. So things are going to flow down. They're not going to flow back up. And I made that mistake when I first started because I assumed that by using the pressure pot, it was going to push the liquid plastic down and then up into any of your crevices in the mold, and that doesn't happen. So depending on if it's just a simple head, it's like a no-brainer. Put a peg on the back and you stick it in. But if there's any kind of like something like that weapon, I'll have to find out like where the highest point is and make sure that the highest point is at the highest point of the mold when it's made to allow for proper like airflow and plastic flow. But once you figure out that, you can pretty much mold anything.
What about size? I have some like little glasses for a Stan Lee head. Would these be too small to cast?
They're probably not too small to cast. I don't even know if you're going to be able to see this, but I did these, which are 1/18 clear goggles. For again, like a modern, like a GI Joe military figure.
Those are tiny.
Yeah.
Fingernail clipping are so small.
Yeah, they look like fingernail clippings. That's exactly what they look like. And then you have like some of the, again, I don't know if you can even see this. It's like a little night vision goggle
Yeah.
that goes on a GI Joe helmet. So I wouldn't say that there's anything that's too small to cast, but honestly, the smaller pieces are more challenging to cast than the larger pieces are.
Yeah.
I seem to have a lot more luck with, I won't say a larger piece because I've tried to do a few large pieces. Again, going back to the diorama thing, I had a couple of Death Star consoles, which was kind of like a failed project for me because I could never get a good one to come out. But that was a couple of years ago, and it's another one of those things that I've been meaning to try again. I just can't find the time to do it. So one of these days I'm going to get around to doing it. But If something is too large or too small, you could have problems with it. They present different kinds of challenges, though.
Sure.
Okay.
And
How
speaking
would
of
you?
go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Todd.
No, you go next. I already know what I'm going to say. Go ahead, Punker Mike.
Okay. Like I've heard some casters say that they shrink cast. Like how would you go about like shrinking something like that? Like
Well,
that was
there's
not for me.
two ways. There's two ways to do it. You can shrink or you can enlarge. You can also enlarge at the same time.
Okay.
Not at the same time, but you can use a material called hydro shrink, which is like for the two-part. The plastic that I use is a two-part plastic. There's A and B, and you mix it in equal amounts. Hydro shrink doesn't get mixed with anything except for water. Okay, so if you mix up an ounce of hydro shrink and an ounce of water, you pour it into your mold. Once it sets, the water evaporates, and as the water evaporates, your piece shrinks.
Oh, nice.
Okay. The other way to do it is you add something into your silicone when you make the mold. It's the same principle. You can use a material called xylene, or the company Smooth-On makes a material called Novox, and you mix that in with the mold, and then the same principle. Like as the mold cures, the material evaporates and the entire mold shrinks. The biggest problem with shrinking or enlarging items is there's no like perfect ratio. Like I can't say I'll take this much of this and this much water, mix it together, and I'll get a perfectly shrunk head from Hot Toys to ML. You know what I mean? Like I can use one ratio to do this head and it'll come out perfect, and I'll use the same ratio to do this head and it'll be too small, or it won't shrink enough.
So
So
a lot
shrinking,
of lot of trial and error.
a lot of trial and error, and again, like it's not a cheap, not a cheap process to go through. I must have people ask me 5 times a week, do you shrink and do you enlarge? And I'm just like, nope, I don't do it. And I do. I've tried several times. Out of all the things that I've tried to do, I've only been successful maybe 2 or 3 times. Everything else has either shrunk too much or not shrunk enough. And the bigger problem was when I was trying the hydro shrink. Firstly, the material cures really fast, so you have about 2 minutes to mix it, pour it, put it in your pressure pot, and pressurize it before it's completely cured.
Wow.
Once it's completely cured, it's like wet tissue paper. So trying to pry open a mold and pull this piece out without ripping it in half was nearly impossible. I tried to do the Ares head. I had the Marvel Legends Build-A-Figure Ares, and I was trying to shrink it to 1/18 scale. I must have tried to pull that from my mold a dozen times before I got one that came out in one piece.
Ugh.
And then when it finally shrunk, it was a little bit too small. It'll work if you put it on a normal action figure body, like if you put it on like a Spider-Man body or like a Cyclops body, but that's not Ares. Ares is a bigger guy. When I did that, they didn't have the Ares figure that came out recently from Marvel Universe. But once they did, people started asking me, "Oh, do you have the Ares head?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but it's too small to fit with that body." And I never went back and tried to do it again. And again, it's one of those things that I'm always like, "Oh, I should try to do that again." And then I remember doing it the first time, and I'm like, "Yeah, never mind." But it is possible, and it, like I said, the same thing in the reverse. If you have a Marvel Universe piece that you want to enlarge to a Marvel Legends piece, you use a material called Hydrospan, which after you make your cast, you have to submerge it in water, and it absorbs the water and expands. That's a little bit easier because if it absorbs too much water, you just remove it, and as the water evaporates, it'll shrink back down. You know what I mean? So if you submerge it in water and it gets too big to fit on whatever Marvel Legends body you want to use it with, you can let it sit out for a day or two, and as a little bit of that water evaporates, it'll shrink down. And then once you hit the proper size, you have to make another mold of it so that you get
Oh.
a new, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Gotcha.
But the problem with enlarging is you can often lose detail when you enlarge.
Sure.
You know, shrinking, you don't lose any detail.
Mhm.
But enlarging is a different story. You know, and then again, like to do the second method, you can make the mold and then you submerge the mold into like the xylene or the Novox from Smooth On, and the whole mold will expand.
So getting to the business side of what you do, I know the majority of what you do is through eBay. What I've heard you complain about dealing with customers on eBay before. Why don't you give us a little bit of understanding of how that's been going?
Understanding as far as what? As far as my complaints?
Yeah, just the pros and cons of running your own business and then having an
Todd
eBay.
wants to hear. Todd wants to hear some horror stories. That's what he wants to hear.
Wants to hear some horror stories. All right. Well, I got one yesterday.
Okay.
Customer. Okay. On eBay, they obviously charge you a fee for every item that you sell.
Mhm.
And now they charge you a fee based on the price of your item plus the cost of the shipping. Because
Mhm.
people were circumventing the fees by selling items for a penny and making the shipping $45. And
Yep.
eBay was only charging the fees based on the selling price. So now, you know, the honest sellers are getting screwed because now we have to pay fees on the entire price. Now, I'm sure you're all aware that shipping anything outside the USA is incredibly expensive.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
But since the items that I sell are fairly small, I use a flat shipping fee. Anything I ship in the U.S. is $3, regardless of how many pieces you buy. Anything I ship outside the U.S. is $12. Again, regardless of how many pieces you buy. I had a customer yesterday who purchased 12 items from me without using the shopping cart. So he bought one $3 weapon and paid $12 shipping. Sent me a $15 PayPal payment. Then he purchased another $3 item with another $12 shipping and sent me a PayPal payment. He did this 12 times. Okay, so now,
Jeez.
on top of having to pay all the fees associated with each one of those individual sales, I have to, combine everything into a single package, upload all the tracking individually now, because if you would have put everything in the shopping cart, it would have printed a tracking label and it would have uploaded it for everything. But now it's not going to do that. I need to upload all the tracking individually. I need to go into PayPal and send him $12 back on each one of those transactions that he spent, he paid the additional shipping fees for. And, if I'm figuring it out properly in my head between the eBay fees and the PayPal fees, I'm probably not going to make any money on that transaction after all is said and done.
Wow, can't you just cancel all his orders and then tell him like this is
That's
the way
what I'm
you
going to
should do it?
try. That's what I'm going to try and do.
Mhm.
But when he contacted me saying, oh, I purchased all these items, can you please ship them all together? And I went on my little tirade about why didn't you use the shopping cart, because every one of my listings says if you're going to buy more than one item, please use the shopping cart, because eBay combines everything and it's much easier for you and for me.
Mhm.
He told me that he tried to put all the things in the shopping cart, but it was giving him errors, and that's why he purchased them all individually.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, but I mean, why would you pay 12 different $12 shipping fees instead of just contacting me and saying, hey, I'm trying to put all these things in the shopping cart, but it's giving me errors. What can I do? And then, I would have figured out, I would have invoiced him directly, or, just said to him, hey, send the money to my PayPal address and I'll send it to you, instead of having him put through 12 different orders for $12 each.
Yeah, that's when the first episode of the podcast. That was one of the things I talked about was um, if you miss out on something or you think you can get a better deal, contact the seller and just hit them up and say, hey, is there any way I can still get this item, or can you combine shipping? And more than likely they'll say yes, and they'll send you an invoice,
Right.
with everything already adjusted, and bam, you're on your merry way.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably my biggest complaint, is that people will buy multiple items one at a time instead of using the shopping cart. And then, like I said, I mean, I guess it's not really a big deal, except in a case like this where it's international. And the thing that makes it a big deal is the fees that I have to pay, because, again, I'm selling a $3 item, but I'm getting hit with a fee for a $15 purchase.
Yeah.
So it adds up. And then, especially on the PayPal side, they charge that 35% transaction fee, which will not get refunded, even though I refund him back his $12 on every one of those transactions. So even if I cancel them all, I'm still going to end up losing about $6 on
Wow.
that deal. So.
I know that in the rare times that I've sold stuff on eBay, I will offer to ship things international only if they use the new
Global
middleman.
Shipping Center.
Global Shipping Center, because then I only have to pay to ship it to Tennessee or Kentucky, wherever the hell it is.
Yeah, mine goes to Kentucky.
Yeah, and then it's all out of my hands at that point. I only have to get it to Kentucky.
Anything larger than my head cast, that's what I do. But I mean, the biggest complaint that I have from people is, why is the shipping so expensive? And it's like, well, there's not much I can do about that. My usual response to that, I had another potential customer about maybe 6 weeks ago say to me, "You're shipping something smaller than a nickel. Why are you charging me $3?" So I said, well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to put your item, if you buy something from me, I'll put it in an envelope, and I'll take it to the post office, and I'll ask them if they'll send it to you for free. And if they say yes, I'll send you your money back. Otherwise, you're going to have to pay for the shipping. And he didn't like that response, But, I mean, I don't know what people want me to do. Put it in a number 10 envelope with a stamp on it and send it to them?
Yeah.
They just want you to throw it really hard and hope that it lands on their porch.
Yeah, I mean, you're having to buy a padded envelope for every package that you send, and you have to
Still $3 is fair, because you can't put a head in it. Well, you can. It's like a 50-50 chance that you can put a head in a 25-cent envelope and it'll get there. Because I've sent it stuff like that, and half the stuff makes it, and half the stuff gets sent back to me.
If they put it through the machines, it's gonna get destroyed, because that machine is gonna roll over it, and it's gonna push the piece right out the back of that envelope.
Yeah.
I mean, I buy envelopes by the case, the padded mailers. I buy a case of 1,000 at a time.
Wow.
But the actual shipping on that package is $2.60. That's what I pay to ship that package. And like you said, I buy envelopes, I buy shipping labels. There's ink for the printer. I mean, people don't think about those things, but it all adds up. I mean, at the end of the day, after the eBay and PayPal fees come out, I'm losing money on shipping.
Yeah.
Like I said, now that they're charging fees, including the shipping cost, which I think is pretty unfair, because if I'm charging you $2.60 and it's costing me $2.60, but eBay is taking 15 cents of that, then I'm losing money on that.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. So, I know you're a few years older than me, and Star Wars was like the first thing that really got me into collecting action figures. So, I know that that's probably still your passion. How have you felt about the Force Awakens?
Well, I was just talking to somebody about it today, and I can sum it up best by saying I would watch The Force Awakens 1,000 times before I watch any of the prequel movies again. But I'd much rather watch the originals.
Yeah.
But if you really break down The Force Awakens, it's nothing more than a remake of Star Wars.
Yeah, I felt the same way. Episode 4,
Mm-hmm.
just a new
Well, see,
twist
it was
on
just called
episode.
Star Wars. It's not called Episode 4. Because
Yeah,
when I saw it, it wasn't called Episode 4. It was just called Star Wars.
yeah.
You know. So
I
I
think
have a hard time saying A New Hope when I say Star Wars.
yeah, because
It's an old hope for Dave.
When did they start calling it A New Hope? When the prequels came out, and then they just dubbed it A New Hope?
No.
When Empire Strikes Back came out, they actually started calling it. Empire Strikes Back was officially titled Episode 5: The Empire Strikes Back. So that's when they gave Episode 4 a number and a title.
Well, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, but from what I understand, because most of these kids were not alive when the original Star Wars comes out. I mean, Diego's almost my age, but for Michael and Punker Mike, I was 5 or just about to turn 5 in '77 when the movie first came out. But what most people don't understand was that it was in a pretty limited release. It really only came out on the East Coast and West Coast. It was in very few. It wasn't in a whole lot of theaters, and the rest of the country didn't actually get the movie until 1979, and that's when I saw it. I was like 6 or 7, and that's when they went and they renamed it Episode 4, A New Hope, and
Okay.
and then it was in a wide release because I saw it in Albuquerque where I was born, and by then everybody had already known about it, and it was like there was already merchandising and stuff like that.
Mhm.
The first action figures were actually coming out because when the movie came out, there was nothing. There was no
There was nothing at all.
there was no product available for it,
Nope.
and then Kenner got the license, but they didn't put out the figures. You had to mail away for the figures.
Yeah. All they sold at Christmas of 1977 was an empty box. That was
The
it.
early bird set.
Mhm.
Yep. Yeah, and it was like the first 5 figures.
4.
4. Well.
Yeah.
So because the Christmas, I think it was Christmas of '78 or '79. I got the Land Speeder. I think that came out around the same time, and then I got the Luke Skywalker and one other figure, and you could barely get Luke's. He had the 5 points of articulation. You could barely get Luke into the
Into the Land Speeder. Yeah.
Oh man, those are the
Yeah.
days.
I mean,
So
they
even
still
before- Oh, go ahead.
hold a soft spot in my heart, but those figures are horrible.
Yeah,
You know,
it's good.
fun fact about Star Wars, they actually got a sneak peek at Comic-Con in 1977.
Yeah, and
Wow.
nobody cared.
Yeah, they actually debuted it at fucking Comic-Con.
I've seen photos of George sitting at a table at Comic-Con, and there's nobody around him. And he's got all the original Macquarie art, like all the concept art and his original logo banner, and like people just they're just walking past like it's nothing.
Wow.
There's got to be a bunch of dudes kicking themselves in the ass. Being
Oh
like,
yeah.
oh man, passing them by, probably clowning them even. Who's this Joker?
Yeah.
I got a Star
well-
Wars fun fact for you guys. Every
Okay.
notch in Dave's braid is actually from a Wookiee he's killed.
Yeah. Have you ever cut your hair, Dave?
Yes, but it's been about 12 years.
Wow. Yeah, because I see that your braid goes like down to your chair. So if you unbraid it, it probably goes to the floor.
No, it's not that long.
Wow.
It's not really a braid. It's just kind of like, it's
Oh,
just
okay. Okay.
because if I don't tie it up like that, it just kind of goes all over the place. So, and it just keeps getting stuck in the back of my chair. That's why I keep moving it.
Now, did you live in New Jersey? Is that where you grew up?
Well, I was born in the Bronx, but my parents moved here when I was 2. So, I pretty much say that I was, born and raised here because obviously from the time I was born to the time I was 2, there's not much going on there as far as I can remember. So my earliest memories are all from, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, and that was all when I was living in Jersey. So, and I've pretty much lived here my entire life.
Gotcha. You must like it there.
No, not really. It's just, it's just where else am I going to go? Everybody, my family's all here, and,
Sure. Yeah.
Dave's a closet fist pumper from the Jersey Shore.
No.
So that's over my head. I never watched any of those shows. I've actually never been to the East Coast, just Florida and Georgia. So I might be going out to New York for Comic-Con this year. I'll have to wait and see how finances go and stuff. But
Nice.
it'd be cool to meet some of the East Coast cats.
I think I've only been on the Jersey Shore like maybe 4 times in my life. So
Oh,
it's like a 3-hour drive from where I live.
Okay then.
What part of New Jersey do you live in?
I live in Bayonne, which is kind of like, I guess, central, north central maybe. I'm about 20 minutes outside Manhattan.
Wow.
Okay.
Nice.
Have you been to what's his name? Kevin Smith's shop?
I went to the location where it was originally opened, but I have not been to the one in Red Bank yet. I'm actually thinking of taking a trip down there this summer at some point, but I mean even that's probably about an hour drive for me. So for me to spend an hour to drive down there just to look at Walt, I don't know if it's worth it.
Yeah, and I'm sure that they have pretty high markup on everything anyway.
Oh, I'm sure. I don't feel like haggling over anything with Walt.
Do you think those dudes actually work at that store? Like, as much as they used to? Probably not, huh?
I don't know.
I don't know. I've listened to the podcast, and those people. I mean, they talk about if you call the shop, it's probably going to be Mike or Walt or Ming answering the phone.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool then. That's cool. Because I've seen them at like cons before, and they're charging like $20 for an autograph, $20 for a picture, kind of thing. So I figured, they kind of maybe just work at the stash, like on certain days or like stuff like that, or just like up for the show,
Yeah, that's how Pawn Stars is now.
Yeah, I was thinking it's similar to like that.
Yeah, those dudes don't even work there if they're not filming anymore. And half the shop is just Pawn Stars merchandise. So
Don't they have like a set for that show? Isn't it like a set where they actually do the filming? It's like not even in the store?
No, it's in the store, but it's like but now it's kind of dedicated to that. You can't if you go to visit Pawn Stars, you might as well be visiting a set. It's not like you're, in a dope pawn shop or anything.
Yeah, I don't think Comic Book Men is quite at that level yet. I think it allows them, to have some extra spending money, but I don't think they're just living off of, whatever they're making off the show. I mean, it's not that crazy yet. So have you ever been out here on the West Coast, Dave?
I was in Los Angeles in 1990 for a convention band I was playing in at the time. We were doing a showcase out there, record label showcase. So I spent 4 days living out of a hotel room with 4 other guys and eating Taco Bell for breakfast, lunch, and dinner because it was the only thing that we could find.
Oh, God.
And it was an experience, let's just put it that way. But that was my only trip to the West Coast.
So, I guess I didn't know you were a musician. What instrument do you play?
I've been playing guitar since 1986.
Okay.
Nice.
Cool.
What was your band's called?
Which one? The one I was out there
Yeah,
with?
when you were out in LA.
It was a band called Valkyrie.
Okay.
You know, I was
We,
waiting for it because you got the like Amon Amarth going on, so I was like, it's gonna be something Viking.
No, no. We, I mean, I've been in, oh God, 8 or 10 bands over the past, what's it, 86, 96, 30, wow, 30 years. Over the past 30 years, I've been in, a whole bunch of bands. And it's always like, I mean, the music business is probably one of the hardest things to break into, and there's always something going wrong. Like the one band, that band Valkyrie, we were doing shows everywhere. I mean, there was a place about half an hour from here called Studio One that used to have a lot of concerts, and we actually opened for Pantera there right before Cowboys from Hell came out. So nobody really knew who they were. But we opened for them there. I was in bands that opened for Sepultura, bands that opened for Napalm Death. I've played with so many other bands, but it's always like, at least in my experience, you're in a band and things are going great, and then all of a sudden they just fall apart. This person is, I'm gonna leave. Like, I'm just gonna quit. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, are you serious? Like, we're this close to getting a record contract. The last band that I was in, we had our album recorded, and we had a record label that was interested in putting our CD out for us, but it was a very small label, and the guy was actually doing it out of his own garage, and he, it was always like, yeah, you know what, I'm going to see if I can fit it into my schedule next month. And then that month would come, and he'd say, well, I'm going to try and get into my schedule next month. And then by the time he finally found the month that he could do it, we had broken up because there was just so much fighting within us, within the band of what are we going to do? We should look for something else. No, let's just wait for this guy to do it. And, it was a big headache. And then that was the last band that I was in, and I haven't done anything since probably 2010, I think we broke up, 2009, somewhere around there.
Do you still play guitar whenever you get a chance?
Not as much as I would like to. I'll put it that way. It's right now my guitars and all my equipment is actually packed up in the back of one of my closets here at the house because it's just I mean, like I said, I spend anywhere from 10 to 12 hours a day down here, and once I go upstairs, it's just relax and watch TV or whatever.
Gotcha. How is your wife pretty supportive of your hobby or your work, your job?
I don't know if I would say that exactly. Considering she keeps telling me to get a job, to get a real job.
Yeah.
But, my mother was right about you.
But when I'm paying all the bills, she has no complaints. So.
Gotcha. I don't know. Do you have kids?
Nope.
Okay. And has anybody seen Batman vs. Superman?
No.
No, not yet. I'm not in a rush.
Yeah.
I have no desire to see that movie.
It'll come to us.
I'll probably wait. They have a theater that after the movie's played for about a month, they have a 350 theater, so they played the movies for 350. So it's the old school theater. So
I don't even know if I'd spend $350 to go see that movie.
Well, my girlfriend, my fiance wants to see it because it's got Wonder Woman in it. That's the only reason. So cheap day night.
I'll wait to get a pirate version.
I'll just watch it.
Yeah, I mean, I would either download it or rent it, but from day one, I just had no desire to see that movie. I don't know what it was. Just something about it was, I don't know.
Yeah. What about season 2 of Daredevil?
I finished it this morning.
Oh, good.
I finished it this morning.
We could talk about it now.
All right, this is going to be a spoiler session, so people at home, spoilers are coming.
Yeah. Well, we put this out every 2 weeks, so it'll be like a month after the series is over a month after the series is over. So if you haven't watched it, then that's on you. What about you, Punker Mike? Did you finish it?
Oh yeah.
Cool. So what do you think, Dave?
Oh, I loved it. I thought it was. I mean, I enjoyed season 1, but I thought this was 10 times better.
Yeah,
You know,
I
it just
agree.
had a lot more action. You know, they're introducing other characters now. You have Elektra, you have the Hand, you have Punisher. I can't wait to see who they're going to introduce in the next season, because I'd love to see them start introducing, even crossing over, if they bring Iron Fist or Luke Cage or someone like that in for an episode. I think it would be really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
You
Well,
know, I'd love to see them bring Bullseye in too,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
if you
Bullseye.
have Daredevil, you need to have Bullseye.
yeah, yeah, and Melvin. I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing him, become Gladiator.
Yeah, later on
Yeah.
down the road, because he opened up his shirt. And
Yeah,
and
you can see the
his
costume
undershirt.
underneath.
Yeah, the undershirt was like the freaking costume. And I was like, oh, come on. And I was like, it's coming.
He's got even a Gladiator poster in his workshop.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it's like I think when he was fucking with the helmet and I had the crack in it, he's messing with it. You could see it just right
It's
there.
like an old school, Gladiator. I think
Yeah,
it's fighting
like
the
old
lion.
school.
Sweet. Yeah, I agree with Dave. It was season 1 was good, but I thought the pacing was a little off. There was a lot of dialogue, and it was there was too much dialogue of just like Foggy and Karen in the office, and I was complaining to these guys like, how are you guys making any money? You guys have no paying clients. Yet you're sitting in an office like supposedly working, and you're just talking about bullshit. And I kept waiting for, and I wanted to see a lot more like acrobatics from Daredevil and stuff. And this season really everything was much better. The dialogue, the pacing, the acting, everything. The first episode was the action I thought was a little bit stiff between Punisher and Daredevil. And also I thought that Frank, his hand-to-hand was way too good, to be on the level as Daredevil. I think that he shouldn't have been as good of a hand-to-hand, martial artist as Murdoch. But and also the two things that really distract me are, I think his costume needs to be a lot more red, because when he's fighting guys in the dark, he just kind of blends in. You can't see him as well. It just kind of turns black. And also, give the fucker a razor already. It's like Murdoch does not have a 5 o'clock shadow all the goddamn time. It's like he needs to be clean shaven at least, in a few episodes.
Well,
Yeah, what do you think, Court?
Yeah,
Yeah, sure, yeah, a judge would
court.
Yeah, a judge would kick your ass out. Say, what? You can't fucking. I understand you're blind, but they do make electric razors.
It's funny you say that, 'cause in one of the episodes, or one part of the episodes, he had actually looked like he shaved, and it threw me off. I was just like, what the fuck? He looked different just because he's always has that fucking scruff.
Yeah, it was shorter, but it was still. And it doesn't make any sense, because unless you have a gate on your razor, a beard trimmer, you can't get a 5 o'clock shadow like that all the time. It's like you have to shave for it to grow out so that you have some stubble. It's just it's minor, but it was a distraction.
Well, somebody left it on that one setting, so that's why he keeps shaving, and he's leaving a 5 o'clock shadow.
Yeah, I was starting to think. I'm starting to think that Charlie Cox has it in his contract. It's like, I do not have to shave for this, just to be on the Smurfs.
No, it's nice. This season is because everything's already been established, so they could right from the get-go. I felt like the first second episode, they hit the ground running because everything's already been explained. So that's what was really nice. Is like, all right, let's get to the shit already. I was like,
Yeah.
here's a Punisher, here's this guy, let's fucking fight. And it was freaking awesome. I watched the first 2 episodes and I was like, damn, all right, here we go.
Yeah, it was. Even my girlfriend commented because she didn't watch all of season 1, but she, I would be watching it, and she would be cooking dinner or whatever, and she noticed, that even the dialogue and the acting was a lot better this season, and the fight scenes I thought were a lot better. Like I said, my only complaint was that Punisher was so on the same level, hand to hand wise, but that hallway scene was like amazing, and I was some website did a breakdown, like talking about how many times like they shot it and like how many the stuntmen had to like go from one top and then run down and do like the scenes all over again.
Oh yeah, I think I read that.
Yeah, it was like that was amazing. Just from a standpoint of filmmaking, just being able to pull that off, it was well done, really well done.
What do you think is going to happen to Elektra?
What did I think about her?
What do you think is going to happen to her? I mean, you think she's going to come back as one of those like hands
she'll be
zombies, or
she'll be resurrected easily. Just
yeah,
the thing that pissed me off is because they were trying to do it like the comics, where they kill her off and then she gets resurrected. But I was like, dude, you're gonna have this guy kill her off and not Bullseye? Come on, that really pissed me off.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Elektra's been resurrected more than anybody.
Yeah, I was gonna say I wouldn't be shocked if they introduce Bullseye and he kills her again.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and I was explaining it to my girlfriend. I was like, Elektra's been killed so many times that they finally just said, "Fuck it, we're not even gonna explain it. We're just gonna bring her back."
Yeah.
In the same fashion with all the other characters, you notice how Daredevil got his suit like the last episode of the first season, and then this season, Punisher, got his ensemble, and then Elektra, when they later in the thing, and she's in the right costume, and you're like, God damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah, my fiance called that one too.
Yeah, it's gonna just keep getting better and better, and hopefully, well, they did tease at least one character from, well, they obviously they brought back Kingpin, but Jessica Jones, the lawyer.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you guys caught it, but I think they were referring to the Born Again storyline. Because when Kingpin was talking to him, he's like, "When I get out of here, he's like, I'm gonna destroy your life.
Yeah.
Or your life, with destroy Foggy's life." And I was like, "Dude, they're gonna do friggin' Born Again." I was like, they do that story.
That's the one where
they blow up his apartment.
Karen?
They turn her into a junkie.
Okay.
They turn Karen into a junkie and a freaking porn star. They blow up Matt's apartment. They destroy his reputation as a lawyer. He's just, oh man, if they do that one, wow.
Yeah, if that's season 3, that'll be really good.
Yeah, I'm so happy we have Netflix for this, because like there's no way that they would do this in the regular MCU.
Well, this would be stupid just on regular TV.
Yeah,
that would suck ass.
They couldn't do this.
Yeah, regular TV would suck, and even the movies, because they're not going to do R-rated movies. Disney's not going to do R-rated movies.
Yeah.
So thank goodness for Netflix. Yeah, I can't wait for Iron Fist. I'm looking forward to Luke Cage, but I'm really looking forward to Iron Fist.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Iron Fist. Like Luke Cage, I still haven't bought that guy being Luke Cage yet. They just feel small to me and not as like tough,
I like him so far.
Like he's okay, but like I don't know. I don't buy it yet. He hasn't sold me on it yet.
What, Dave? What did you think?
He needs more thug in him.
What did you think of Jessica Jones, Dave?
It was a little slow. It definitely picked up at the end, the last like 2 or 3 episodes. Once the Purple Man really started getting, once he really started showing who he really was, it got better, I thought. But it was a little hard to watch some of those episodes all the way through. But I mean, overall, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, again, I hope that they, it can only get better in the second season.
Yeah.
You know.
I liked it. The only thing that I had a problem with two things. One was I didn't like the way that it ended. I thought it was just way too anticlimactic and way too like quick. Like they just wanted to hurry up and end it. And then I didn't like how almost every episode, like the bad guys already knew where she lived. You know, it was like they would just keep showing up. It was like eventually she's gonna have to live somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like everybody just show up at her place and like, okay, I'm gonna fuck you up now. It's like, why would you keep going back there? That was kind of silly. I'm looking forward to what the hell is it called? Civil War. I've been trying to avoid as much of the spoilers as possible, but it's like just being on Facebook, people ruin it. When the hell is it? It comes out in May, right?
Yeah, I think May.
Yeah. It should be good. So you don't really collect much as far as figures anymore, I take it?
No, not really. I don't know. Usually when I walk through Target or Toys R Us, I just look at things and I say, what can I make out of this? Or if I buy this and make copies of this head, will people buy it? And that's pretty much what I do now. I don't know if it's just because I'm getting older or that I just have an entire 12 by 12 room that's just packed floor to ceiling with boxes and nowhere to put any of it that makes me just not want to buy. I mean, I want to buy everything, but I end up picking things up and walking around the store with them and just going, I can't buy this, and I end up putting it back. I mean, even the Star Wars, like the Force Awakens stuff, I've only bought a handful of figures. I mean, the Stormtroopers will always be my weakness, so I've got a whole bunch of those. But other than that, I think I have Kylo Ren and Rey, and I think that's about it.
So those are probably the last figures that you picked up, like to actually own in your collection?
to keep to keep in a box somewhere, basically. I don't really have anywhere to. I mean, I have some stuff down here in my my workshop, but the little amount of space that I have is there's just supplies and things everywhere.
Were you primarily a loose collector or mint on card?
Well, when they re-released Power of the Force 2 in 1995, I would buy a minimum of 2 of everything so that I could open one for the shelf and keep one on the card. And then any additional extras, because 20 years from now I can sell these for big money.
Yeah, I tried doing that too, and it didn't work.
I think people, obviously people are still trying to do it, but people don't realize that the reason that the things from the 70s are worth so much money is because people opened them back then. They didn't save them. So finding that Darth Vader or that Boba Fett still on that card, that's what makes it worth so much money, because people didn't buy things and set them in a closet and say 20 years from now I'm going to sell this and buy a car.
Yeah.
Which is what people think today.
Yep.
I mean, hell, some people take a picture of it in their shopping cart at Walmart and expect to sell it to buy a car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and things are so much more mass-produced now, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have... I have a few 3 3/4 inch figures as well, but more just like for nostalgia. My favorite from the Star Wars universe, like a lot of people, is the Bounty Hunters from Empire Strikes Back. So if Hasbro ends up finally giving us those from the Black series, I'm definitely jonesing to get those, and even more so if Figuarts or Mafex makes those, I'll be all over them. But I've been losing more and more interest as time goes on in Black Series or even just Star Wars figures in general.
Yeah.
I have one 3 3/4 figure. I actually sold all of them, like a long time ago, and I kept one only because it's like an error, and I've never seen anyone have it. It's just it's from Attack of the Clones. It's a young Jango Fett, and his helmet visor isn't painted.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I just kept it because I've never seen anyone like have it, or I never saw it in price guides back when they used to have price guides, you know. But I just kept it.
Yeah, there's gonna be that one guy who's like, I gotta have every
Every variation.
every
That guy used to be me.
yeah, every defect ever known. Let's see. Yeah, I have one vehicle still in the package. Is the from episode 2, that one bounty hunter chick. Oh, Zam Wessel.
Mm-hmm.
I have Zam still carded, and then I have her speeder because I tried selling it, just to break even, just to get my money back on her, and then nobody wanted her, so I was like, all right, just keep it in the box, keep it in the storage bin somewhere.
Like for some of those, because I had a bunch of Star Wars too that couldn't even get it for cost, like couldn't even make my money back or whatever. And you look, eBay's selling it for $2, $3, whatever. I was like, screw it, and I would just donate that stuff to Toys for Tots. Like I would take bags for the last like 5 years at least. I would just take bags of like just shitty toys, that I don't want anymore. Basically, I was like, hey, some kid will still want this 5-point articulation Spider-Man. You know what I mean? I was like, screw it. Let them, let whoever is, picking the toys out decide. Can we give this out? Is it, I don't know, whatever. So I just take bags and be like, here, I'm not gonna do anything with these, I was like,
Dave,
I can only make $1 off of it, so I'll just donate it.
Dave, have you picked up any of the import Star Wars figures?
No, I don't know. To me, spending that much money on a figure just doesn't sit well with me. Any kind of figure. I mean, I used to collect the Sideshow figures when they first started the Star Wars, but I mean, they were like $60 back then, and I was just like, oh my god, why am I spending $60 on this Anakin Skywalker? I mean, they were fantastic. They were super articulated. They have a ton of accessories, but I mean, I had a shelf that was about 6 feet long and maybe a foot deep, and there was no more room on that shelf for those Sideshow figures. And I looked at it, and I was just like, my god, there's got to be like $3,000 worth of figures on this shelf. I need to stop. It was like, I can't do this anymore. So, I mean, I look at the import figures, and they look really nice, and then I see the price tags, and I'm like, I can't, because I'm definitely a completist when it comes to certain things, and I know that if I buy one, I'm going to have to buy them all.
Yeah.
Luckily, I've been able to avoid that lately with, like I said, like the Black Series. I'm not buying everything, and the 4-inch ones, the new ones, I don't think I've bought more than a small handful of the. Well, that's not true, because I did buy a whole bunch just to pop the heads off and make copies of all the heads of the the new 5 POA or 5 POS figures from Force Awakens.
Yeah, I haven't seen a whole lot of those the deluxe 4-inch figures in the stores, but they look pretty good from what I've seen.
Which the Walmart ones, the exclusive ones, you mean? Yeah, I mean those are what the figures should be.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, they're like $14 each at the Walmart where I go. So, I have one of each, except for, again, the Stormtroopers. I have about a dozen of those. 'Cause that's, like I said, that's just my weakness. For the original trilogy Stormtroopers, I probably have 400.
Oh, jeez.
Wow. So is Stormtrooper your favorite character from the series?
No,
or
Boba Fett's definitely my favorite character, but I got that army building bug real early, and I used to have in my old apartment I had a bookcase that I printed out like decals, like Death Star wall panels, and the entire bookcase was just filled with stormtroopers.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah,
It was
I think-
nice until somebody came along and like would flick one over because then it would start a chain reaction and they would all fall. You know.
Yeah, we were talking to Bob the Odd about when somebody comes over to his house, just like, don't touch my shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one because he had a friend or something that would come over and just take swords off of the wall and swing the swords around, and everybody was kind of like, "Dude, that's not normal. That's some pretty crazy shit."
Yeah, I think for Black Series, I only have I think I have 3 6-inch stormtroopers. Yeah, and I got sold my Darth Vader once I got the Mafex one. It was like, kiss that goodbye. But
Like, I only have a handful of Black Series too, only because I can't find any. So I just like gave up on it.
Yeah.
I just like I forget it. The only guy you ever
Dude,
see
Southern
is
California.
you only see that guy that was never in the movie, that constable guy.
Yeah.
Zuvia, yeah.
Yeah, which I don't remember seeing him, and then Finn. The only 2 people I ever see.
Yeah, I see Zuvio Finn at my Kmart has a Guavian trooper, but they want like $23, I think.
Yeah.
For
Toys R Us
trooper.
here is $23.99.
Oh my god. Yeah, so there's no, it's like no wonder nobody's buying that crap.
Mhm.
But it's not just Southern California. California in general, man, it's been so hard. That's why I keep telling these guys in the Midwest, you guys don't know how lucky you are because we hardly are getting any new figures now. The warehouses out here are so full of peg warmers.
Same thing here. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not even peg warmers here. Here, the pegs are just empty.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I was in Walmart. I was in 2 Walmarts today. The Walmart closest to my house has 2 Finns and a Zuvio, and even the 4-inch figures they have like maybe 4 or 5 4-inch figures on the pegs. The rest of the pegs are just empty.
Yeah.
You know, the other Walmart was more. They had more, more quantity, but it was just Finn and Zuvio. That was it. You know.
Jeez.
See, like the Targets over here, like there's only like a handful of figures, but all the other crap shit is like stocked up, like those 12
because
inch
nobody
figures.
buys that.
Yeah,
Because nobody
those 12
buys
inch
that stuff.
figures
Yeah.
that don't move, the little vehicles, all that.
Oh yeah,
It's
all
like
those
things-
like little micro machine vehicles.
Yeah.
We got like 8 pegs of those at Walmart.
Yeah, and like no one buys this shit, but the figures, the stuff people like the number one thing that actually sells, it's never stocked. They never have
And
any.
I'm sure they probably have 6 more cases of those little vehicles in the stock room too.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm still getting new shipments of like the Star Wars figures, but it only lasts a couple of days.
But is it the old stuff? Like I see people online saying, "Oh, Walmart got in 2 cases, but they were wave 3." You know,
Yeah, like-
and it's
Like I still see like Phasma and Kylo Ren still pop up.
Never seen them.
What's his name? The Jango Fett wave, that one. They still pop up, but like they'll be there, and then like by the end of the
Haven't
day,
seen
the
those
next
yet.
day they're gone.
yeah, we haven't even seen those here yet. I don't think I've seen anything. I never saw a Phasma on the pegs. I didn't see any of the Hux and Asti wave. I haven't seen any of the Jango Fett wave, and I haven't seen any of the the new ones with Ahsoka.
My area, they must have been gearing up for it because I swear my area got hit with Star Wars this week, like heavy, and everywhere has a sale right now. And all the stores normally here they're real stingy about when they get shipments, but lately they've been telling everybody, yeah, we get it on Friday or whatever. And so I went finally, and they all got the same case. It was the the one with Finn where he's got the blood on the helmet and Flame Trooper, stuff like that. And somebody, I don't know if it was the same guy, I'm not sure, but somebody went and got Jango Fett from all the stores. So there were no Jango Fetts anywhere. And then my Toys R Us, because it's the only Toys R Us.
You better ask Josh Cheney.
I know, it might be his friend, because his friend's a big Star Wars guy. But our Toys R Us had like a big sale on Star Wars too, and they ordered 5 of that case. So when I went in there, all they had though was 5. No, there's more, but there's Kylo Ren and then 5 Phasmas. But that was it. There's nothing else. And it's kind of like bittersweet because some people still like I can't find a Phasma, and I'm sitting here on a mountain of Phasma, but nothing that I needed. So it's always the collector's situation. It's never what you need.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you still need Jango Fett or what?
Huh?
Do you still need Jango Fett or what?
I got real lucky because I found at one of the Targets, I found the old Han Solo, and I got him, and I posted that, somebody beat me to Jango Fett, and Chris Gupton was like, hey, do you need Jango Fett? And I said, yeah, but whatever. And he's like, no, $20, and I'll send you this 1 min on card. I was like, what? Yeah, it'll actually be here in 2 days because he shipped it priority. I was, damn, man.
Like, the store should be coming up soon. With more product because the DVD release.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's probably why.
They should be gearing up soon.
When does that drop?
I think like next month or something.
Really? Nice.
Yeah, like a week or 2.
Yeah, so they got to be gearing up with product.
That makes sense. That's probably why all the stores got it. Well, now I know when the movie drops, they won't have anything because they got it this week.
Because they already put it out.
Well, they don't really need to gear up. They just need to get more Black Series because they got all the other merchandise still on the shelves. They just need more Black Series.
Mm-hmm. I've been like I did not collect Black Series when it came out because I knew the Star Wars is so big that it would be like a commitment. And so I actually bought Darth Maul and returned him, and now I wish I still had it. But ever since Force Awakens stuff came out, Force Friday, I was there that day, and they had a sale, so I got like the figures. And I was like, what, I'll start collecting Black Series now. And I've just been so fucking lucky. Like, I don't think I've paid full price for any Black Series that I own right now, just out of pure, luck. Like, it just happened to be, I'm in the store. Oh, they have the what is it? The Riot Trooper and Poe 2-pack. Mm-hmm. I go and it rings up for like $20. I'm like, okay, I'll take that. Hell yeah. And it's just random. So I have a decent collection now. Like I have like 6 Stormtroopers and stuff, but it's just out of pure luck.
The Asti that you found for me is one of the few that I paid full price for. Otherwise, I was telling Michael earlier that I got lucky with when Anakin first came out. Nobody wanted him, and I got him for like 16 shipped on Amazon.
When Wave 1 first came out, nobody wanted them. Luke and R2-D2, even Darth Maul, they were just all over the place. And
they're like $10 on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Easy.
I remember I picked up a Darth Maul for a Solid Snake, and after that, they couldn't find any Wave 1, and I wish I had picked up more for myself. Because I later went back and hunted down the pilot Luke and Luce from people mostly on people from Facebook. But yeah, you just don't know what's gonna be hot, down the road. But I'm gonna
before the movie dropped, when Phasma was like $50, and the movie comes out and everyone's trying to get rid of it.
Yeah, you can't even sell it for 15 now.
Yeah.
Then they'll give her a bigger role in the second, in episode 8, and she'll shoot back up again, and then you won't be able to find them anywhere.
Right. Yeah, everyone's clamoring for her now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I was telling Michael earlier, like the only one that I wouldn't mind having right now is Kanan, but I'm not gonna, lose any sleep getting him. I just want to kit bash it anyway. So it's like, if I get it for retail, that's fine, but I'm not paying anything more than that.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the
What
only
else?
Black Series figure I didn't get that I really wanted was that Salacious Chrome. About it.
Oh, SDCC exclusive?
Yeah, I didn't want to buy the whole box set. I just want fucking Salacious. That's it.
Yeah, I've been contemplating making molds of that and casting it up.
That's
Would
a good
you have to do
idea.
it in separate parts though, right? Because isn't he
Yeah.
semi-articulated?
Mm-hmm. I would take them
Right.
apart and do it.
I'd fucking army build those. I'd make a whole army. I'd have an Ewok village, but of Salacious Chromes. You guys are laughing. I'm fucking serious, dude.
Yeah, I'm just imagining all the hookahs you're gonna have all around there.
Oh yeah, dude. If I wasn't tired, I'd be doing my Salacious impression right now.
You
They-
gotta put in what's it called? Like when when you order from somewhere, but they have like a minimum like business thing or whatever. You gotta pledge right now at least 5 for Dave to consider making it.
Dude, 5's easy. That's a given. I'll buy 5.
I'm surprised that they gave us. Well, I'm not surprised, but it's frustrating that they gave us the Jabba with Salacious, and they gave us the Princess Leia in the Bosch costume, but no Bib Fortuna, and no Gamorrean guards. It's like, they're playing the same game that Marvel Legends do. Is like you can't build, a team or a set. It's like you want.
Yeah.
And they're not gonna produce those for a while because they're gonna stay on Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we get any new figures from the original films, it'll be a miracle
Yeah.
for the next several years. I mean, they're talking about putting out a new movie every year, and obviously, if they're smart, they're gonna merchandise the new characters or the new movies. So, I guess there's always convention exclusives to look forward to. Maybe they'll do like a Bib and Gamorrean Guard 2-pack at STCC.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
No,
it would
Purple
piss
on
off
Salacious
everybody.
2-pack.
It wouldn't be smart. It would piss off everybody.
Yeah, true.
Well,
The-
like how they put the Phase 2 Trooper in the Amazon pack. It's like the
Yeah.
only way you can get a regular Phase 2 clone.
Well,
Horrible.
it's not the only.
Well,
one.
no. Yeah, I was just gonna say no, because you made the heads now. I saw Fernando's that you made. That was
Yeah.
awesome.
For some reason, I always,
Well, you know what?
liked,
That brings me to a question. Oh, what are you gonna say?
for some reason, I always liked Bib Fortuna. I used to do a pretty good Bib Fortuna impression, but he's just so bizarre, looking and the way he moved and talked and everything is. I like that character for some reason.
You gotta do Bib, and then Punker Mike can do Salacious. Now we just need a Jabba. Come on, Dave. I know you've done a few in your day.
No, not me.
Oh man. So about the Clone Trooper head, because I was thinking about it. When you casted it in white, and then you just painted essentially the decal parts, right?
Well, technically, I cast it in white, but then I ended up painting the entire thing white before I started doing the details.
Okay, because I was gonna say, how did you match? How'd you color match to the figure?
Well, it's not a perfect match. If you look at the photos he took, you can see that it's off by a little bit. But pretty much, I'm going to say it's impossible to get a perfect color match unless you're going to paint the entire figure over. That's the one drawback to casting. I mean, again, a lot of people will buy something. They'll buy a head cast from me, and they'll email me and say, "Well, the skin tone doesn't match the skin tone of the figure," and I'm like, "Well, what did you expect?" I first of all, I don't know what you're going to use it with. Second of all, I have a bottle of tint that says flesh tone. I don't have 45 different flesh tones that I can tint this to make it match the figure that I can miraculously figure out what figure you're going to put it on. You know what I mean? I mean,
Yep.
I don't know what people expect sometimes. You know?
Yeah, people
Too
need
much.
Yeah.
That's what they expect. Too much.
people need to understand that for most of us, head casts are for people who can paint. You know,
Yeah.
it's not going to be a silver bullet that you can just stick a casted head on your figure and be like, oh, hey, now I have, this head on this figure and I'm good to go.
I had a guy ask me like 3 or 4 days ago. He was like, "Oh, I saw the head cast that you make, and I bought one, but I don't know how to paint it. What kind of paint did you use?" So I told him what kind of paints I used. And he's like, "Well, what color, did you use to paint the flesh color?" So I gave him all the information, and he just kept asking me questions like, "What kind of brushes should I buy? What kind of this and what kind of that?" And I wanted to say to him, I'll answer every question that you have, but I would be willing to bet anything in the world that when you paint that head, it's not going to look like the one that I painted. I'm not trying to say that I'm a fantastic painter, but if you've never painted one before, don't expect the results you see from people online, because it's not going to happen.
Yeah, you either need to pay.
Well, that was his first question: is if I pay you, can you paint this for me? And I said, unfortunately, I can't because I just have so much going on. And then he started asking me all the questions about how he could do it himself. And like I said, I mean, he must have asked me 8 or 10 different questions, and I answered them all. I gave him all the information that I could give him. But I know that when he goes to paint it, he's just going to be like, "Oh man, this doesn't look." I mean, maybe he's a prodigy and he's going to be able to paint it fantastic on his first attempt. It could happen. I'm not saying it can't, but the chances are probably not good.
Yeah.
And I always try to tell people that when people ask me for advice on how to do something, the first thing I tell people is, whatever you do, don't get frustrated. Don't get angry if you paint something and it doesn't look like the pictures you see in the magazines or the pictures that you see on DeviantArt or Instagram. I said, because most of the people that are doing that have been doing it for years, and you're not going to do that on your first attempt.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always better if you don't think you can do it, send it to a customizer who's willing to paint it for you.
Well, I mean, I always encourage people to try it, but I just don't. But people expect to, oh, I just bought this and I want to paint it, and they expect to paint it and have it look like a factory piece. And it's, like I said, 99 times out of 100, it's not going to happen. And I don't want. I hate to see people who try something and it doesn't work out the way they expected it to, and they're just like, well, I give up. Because you can't give up because you didn't paint something. I mean, I don't have any pictures of my first customs from, back in the early 90s, but they don't look anything like the customs I make today. I can tell you that much. And even then, I mean, I look at other people's work online, and I'm blown away by some of the stuff that I see on Facebook from some of these, customizers. I'm just like, oh my God, like, how can I get to that level? It's like some of the stuff I see just blows me away.
Yeah, Michael Wisman is pretty amazing at painting heads.
Pretty adequate. I don't know about amazing.
I was, talking to my girlfriend today. It's like that Giant Man that I did is a 12-inch figure, and it was pretty challenging to paint those eyes. But then when you get down to a 6-inch scale head, it's like, ooh.
You tried doing a 1/18 scale head.
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it.
I think he'll have it by the time this airs, because I'm not supposed to show anybody yet. But I finished up that Punisher head. I think I might have mentioned it last time. I don't remember. But I wanted the battle-damaged Punisher head.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
I don't know if you aired it on the episode or if that was like the afterwards, but.
Well, as commissioned. It's not supposed to be exactly like the Mezco one, but he was like, hey, can you just use Mezco as kind of like a reference, and then we'll go from there. And it's completely repainted. I think Let me know if this works when this is live. I'm gonna try to screen share because I actually took a picture of it. Let's see. Because I know every time I try to show something, it's like, oh yeah, that little gray blob looks great, Michael. Okay, can you guys see this picture on my thing?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Click on you so it'll stay on screen. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, this is a sneak preview because this is, like I said, I'm not supposed to be showing it. By the time this airs, though, I'm pretty sure he'll have it. So.
Yeah, we still have a couple more episodes to put up before we put this one up. So cool, very cool.
Thank you. All right.
How long did it take you to do that?
I made really fast progress, and then once I was like, oh, it's done, that's when it took forever, because he'd see it and be like, nah, fix this, change that, do this. I'm like, oh. And then, but you know what, though? After about a week of that, I think the final result is better than my first result, so it's like, okay, whatever. But, yeah, we even had to go so far as to be like, well, how do white people bruise? Well, they don't bruise like that. White people bruise like this. Black people bruise like this. And I'm like, okay. Whatever.
Yeah, Pharaoh Black is a stickler.
Yeah. But this is a good time, though, where it's like him pushing made it better, so I can't give him too hard of a time.
Yeah, looks awesome.
Alright, you can deselect me now.
Yeah, we're back to normal. So, Dave, besides your website is StarWarsGeek.net,
Yes.
and what's your eBay? The same. eBay Star Wars Geek, is that?
No, actually, my eBay store is called Star Wars Geeks Custom Toys and More, something like that. I honestly don't remember what the name is. If you go to the StarWarsGeek.net website, there's about 12 different icons that just link to everything from Facebook to Instagram, Twitter, DeviantArt, eBay. It's just easier that way for me to just have all the links right there.
Gotcha.
You know?
Let's see. What was I gonna ask? Have you ever run into problems with like Hasbro or Marvel or any of those companies coming after you for you have to change the names of things?
No, I mean on my store everything just goes by number. I just have everything numbered. I mean it's easier for me that way. Like when people email me and they say, "Oh hey, you have this this Batman head." It's like what figure did that come from? And I'm like, I have no idea. Like what number is it? You know?
Yeah.
Or you know like. Since I'm not a big like Legends collector, people will say, "Oh, you have this titanium man head," and I'm like, I guess I'm like, I don't know what number is it. You know, like I don't know who half these people. I mean, half the stuff gets sent to me by other people who want me to make copies of it.
Yeah.
So they're like, "Oh, if I send you a bunch of stuff, can you copy it?" And I'm like, "Sure." So they'll send me 4 or 5 heads, and I'll make the molds, and I'll send them a few copies, and I'll put them in the store. And then, like I said, people will email me, "What figure is this from?" And I'm like, "I don't know, man. Someone sent it to me." And I feel kind of bad, but that's the truth. It's not that I'm not into the. I mean, I don't have it anymore, but I had 40 or 42 long boxes of comic books that I just finally sold off. So I mean, I've been reading comic books since I was about. I guess I was about 5. I used to go. I was allergic to everything when I was a kid, from dogs and cats, grass, milk, chocolate, you name it.
Wow.
I was allergic to it.
Wow.
So I used to have to go to the doctor twice a week just to get allergy shots. And my mom would stop at a candy store and I'd always buy a comic book, So and that was technically before I could even read, because I remember going home after the doctor, and my dad had this tape recorder, and I would record myself flipping through the book, looking at the pictures, and making up my own story for what was going on. And then I would keep all the tapes and listen to them later. I'd label them. Most of what I would buy was I remember having old Tomb of Dracula and Werewolf by Night books. So I'd always label, Tomb of Dracula #4. And then I would go back and I'd play the tapes and flip through the books and listen to it. And,
That's tight. That's cool.
And then as I got older and I learned to read, obviously then I could, and I went back. I remember going back and being like, oh my God, what the hell was I doing? And now that I can read this, it's like, what the hell?
This guy's name is Dracula?
But I've always been a pretty hardcore comic book collector and reader, but I just something about the Toy Biz Legends, I missed out on all that stuff. I didn't buy any of that stuff when it was first coming out. So people send me these pieces and I'm just like, it doesn't look familiar to me, so I don't know what figure it was from. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't get into collecting until after the Toy Biz days. Well, I didn't get collecting as an adult really until after the Toy Biz days, when the first Iron Man movie came out. So yeah, a lot of those figures I have to like. What's that?
You're a noob.
Yeah, yeah. To a guy like
This
you.
guy's a phony.
I don't know, this guy's a phony.
This guy's a phony. Boo this man.
Now, if you're talking G.I. Joes, that's when when I was a kid, that's when I was hardcore into, getting figures. But
Yeah.
there was a big break between age 12 to age 20. So, but anyway, any you guys have any other last minute questions for Dave, or want to plug anything or talk about anything?
I think Dave should share his stories more often because you've led a pretty cool life from what I heard, man.
Thanks, I guess.
Well, no, you have the classic story of I was this poor sick kid and had to go to the doctor and
I
my
didn't
mom
say I
took
was
me
a
to the
poor
candy
sick
shop.
kid. I mean, I was allergic to everything under the sun, except for the sun, I should say.
Not monetarily. I meant oh, poor you for being allergic to everything.
Uh-huh.
No. So
it was no fun to make powdered milk for your cereal anymore. Let me tell you, okay? Because I couldn't have regular milk because I was allergic to it, and I couldn't eat chocolate. I couldn't go to the park because I was allergic to the grass, and I couldn't have a dog because I was allergic to dogs.
Yeah, when we were kids, there was no such thing as soy milk
Yeah, exactly.
or almond milk.
Nope, it was powdered milk. That was it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much for spending your evening with us.
Oh, well, thank you guys for inviting me on.
And keep up the fantastic work with casting. For those listening, if you're in need of head casts for Star Wars or G.I. Joes, especially in 3 3/4 inch or 6-inch scale figures for DC or Marvel, definitely check out his store. And with that, I think we'll wrap it up.
We'll triple see you later.